clang of the bathroom lock cut through the silence like a scalpel. Stepping out of a cloud of steam was an uninvited guest, a mass of muscle with an expression of sculpted indifference. He threw Ethan a look utterly devoid of interest, then spoke lazily, addressing Chloe. "What's he looking at like that, sweetie? Is your brother there, the cripple, unhappy about something?" "I'm not a brother." Ethan's voice was dry, like the crackle of dead wood. "I'm the one footing the bill for this circus, the lawful husband. Although, judging by appearances, formalities don't matter much around here." The athlete's eyes widened for a moment, flickering from the limping Ethan, leaning on his crutches, to Chloe's smug grin. "I'll disappear now," Ethan continued, his voice holding no anger, only a chilling emptiness. "And you, feel free, exactly as much as she allows you." Turning, he dragged his injured body towards the closet with effort. Packing, which used to take 5 minutes, turned into a humiliating hour-long ordeal. Chloe and her new companion, unwilling to witness this pathetic spectacle, slipped away, the door slamming shut behind them. When his bag was full, Ethan took one last look at the walls soaked with deceit, keys under the mat, phone in the backpack, switched off. He wasn't going to speak to anyone anymore, ever. The subway, the train station, and then the shaky, rattling suburban bus, a coffin on wheels, carrying him away from the concrete mausoleum of his shattered ambitions. Goodbye, the city. Goodbye, illusion. Hello, the swamp he'd fought so hard to escape. Although, no, he wouldn't go back. Why? To end up a drunk like his father? To become a joke to everyone who secretly waited for him to fail? They got what they wanted. They were right. No, he'd get off earlier. A dark line of forest up ahead. A strong branch would do. Could make a noose from his bag strap. And that's what he did. He stumbled off the bus in the middle of vast fields and hobbled towards the tree line. The weather, perversely, was breathtakingly beautiful. The sun, a ruthless golden eye. Birdsong, a soundtrack to someone else's happiness. On such a day, even a shattered man might want to believe, even in the great nothingness, to lie down on that sun-warmed slope, breathe in the spicy life-filled air, and sleep. Just dissolve, sink into blissful darkness from which there is no return. And he slept, for the first time in months, without pills or nightmares. Sleep came, deep as a grave. "Hey!" A persistent voice, like a chisel, chipped away at his consciousness. "Hey, drifter, wake up!" He felt a sharp slap across his cheek. He didn't want to open his eyes. He wanted to sink back into the cosy darkness. And then his world exploded. Icy water cascaded over him, burning his skin like 1,000 needles. He yelled and sat up, gasping for air. The purple twilight was deepening around him. Standing before him was a woman of indeterminate age, stout, grey-haired, wearing a simple tracksuit. "What? What are you doing?" Ethan wheezed, trying to focus his vision. "Awake now?" "Good," she answered briskly, completely ignoring his question. "Get up, grab your sticks, and let's go." Obeying her unexplained authority, Ethan got up. His legs were numb, barely responding. And then it hit him. This whole absurd situation, this strange old woman dragging him into the unknown. "Damn it!" he roared, throwing one crutch away. "Who asked you to touch me?" His backpack flew into the grass. He shouted something, waving his arms, unleashing all his venom and pain. Then he threw away the second crutch and, unable to stand, collapsed to the ground. Burying his face in his hands, he wept, quietly, piteously, like a lost child. "There, there!" The woman came closer again. She handed him his crutches, picked up his backpack. She took out a handkerchief, and as if he were a child, wiped his wet face. "Come on, dear. The sun will be gone completely soon." He no longer resisted. All his strength, mental and physical, was gone. He trudged after her, like a calf on a leash, asking no questions. They walked for an eternity, through the forest, across the field, in the deepening darkness. She led him confidently, warning him about roots and holes. Finally, they reached some sort of cottage community, looking like a ghost town. Only the gatehouse had a dim light. A dog barked and ran towards them. "Argos, it's me!" the woman called out, and the dog, wagging its tail, ran up to her. She exchanged a few words with a grey-haired watchman who looked like a forest gnome, and they continued down the dark lane. Not a single light showed in the windows. Their house was the last one, right by the woods. "Wait here. I'll tell Argos we have a guest. He doesn't like surprises." Before Ethan could answer, a huge Doberman burst out of the lit house with a deafening bark. Ethan instinctively raised a crutch in front of him, but the dog froze a few feet away, sniffing the air noisily. "Argos, don't scare our guest," his rescuer's voice called out. "Come in, don't be afraid. He's just showing off what a good guard he is." The house smelled of herbs and wood. It was a time capsule, reminding him of his grandmother's cottage, the only person who ever truly loved him. The hostess, whom he mentally nicknamed Eleanor, fed the dog, then set a plate of steaming pasta in front of Ethan. He ate with a predator's hunger, oblivious to everything else. Then there was tea with jam. Eleanor sat opposite him, smiling silently. She didn't ask questions. The house showed signs of past prosperity, but everything looked modest now, though well maintained. "Come on, time for bed." Her hand touched his shoulder. She led him to a small bedroom with a separate door to the garden. The bed was clean and smelled of lavender. A haven for broken souls was his last thought before he sank into a bottomless void. The awakening was gentle. A sunbeam tickled his face. There was an unaccustomed silence in the house. He got dressed and went out into the garden. Right by the door was a cosy patio area with wicker chairs and a small bench. But the silence was a deception. It was replaced by a deafening chorus of birdsong. Ethan sat in a chair and closed his eyes, immersing himself in the sea of sound. "Ah, there you are!" Eleanor's brisk voice pulled him out of his reverie. "Good morning. Let's go do some exercises." "Exercises," Ethan exclaimed, surprised. They went out to a clearing behind the house. There, on a yoga mat, Argos sat with an important air. Eleanor gestured to a second mat for Ethan. "But I'm disabled," he began. "I know, and I'm just an old eccentric. But trust me, it's necessary. Come on, no arguments." For the next half hour, they performed a bizarre ritual, a mix of stretching and yoga. The most astonishing thing was Argos, the chocolate-coloured Doberman, with surprising grace, mimicked his mistress's movements, which made Ethan chuckle. Over a delicious cup of coffee brewed in a pot at breakfast, Ethan said, "I'm really grateful to you, but I should probably be going." "And where exactly would you go?" Eleanor asked calmly. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "We haven't properly introduced ourselves. I'm Ethan." "Eleanor. And this scrounger is Argos?" "Ethan Riley," he introduced himself. "You can just call me a failure. I certainly deserve it." Eleanor laughed. "How old are you, young man?" 28. "Is that an age to be labelling yourself? What is it you actually want from me? Why did you save me? What do you think? If I see a young man lying unconscious in a field for the second evening in a row, should I just walk on by?" "Second evening?" Ethan didn't understand. "What do you mean?" "What's today's date?" she asked. He reached into his pocket. A bus ticket. June 20th. "Today is the 22nd, Eleanor said. "That happens. From severe stress. Are you a doctor?" "Almost a neurologist. My oath prevents me from walking away. And after you came around, first you were agitated, then you fell into apathy. I knew I couldn't leave you alone." "So what is it you want?" Ethan asked, feeling something shift inside him. "I want you to tell me about yourself. You see, Ethan, I have a spare room, and someone who has shipwrecked himself recognizes fellow travellers in misfortune. Stay here until you get back on your feet." He was silent, looking into her kind, slightly sad eyes. "Thank you." That's all he could manage. Tears choked him. That night a storm broke. The sky roared and threw lightning. The house trembled. Neither Ethan nor Eleanor could sleep. They sat in the kitchen watching the storm rage outside. "Tell me your story," she asked. And he told her everything about escaping a poor village, about the monastery, about working with dogs, about law school and his dizzying rise in the city, about Chloe, who wasn't love but a predator, turning him into a walking ATM, about the accident that shattered everything, about the humiliation at work, about her cruelty, about finding another man in their apartment, about her terrible words that the child might not be his, about packing his things and leaving to die. When he finished, the storm outside was still raging. Yes, not a cheerful story, one Eleanor said, but that's no reason to end your life, believe me. And what about you? Ethan asked. I get the feeling things haven't been easy for you either. And then she told her story about the death of her beloved husband, a renowned surgeon, about the loneliness that fell over her like a shroud, and about a granddaughter who suddenly appeared after many years, grown up, beautiful, getting married. How her heart rejoiced, how she found meaning in life again. And then the granddaughter, looking into her eyes with angelic pleading, asked her to sign the apartment over to her, supposedly to avoid taxes after, well, you know. And she, blinded by love, signed the deed, and then, returning from her cottage in the autumn, she couldn't open the door to her apartment. The lock had been changed, and at the office they told her she'd sold the property. A stroke. The hospital. An emptiness. The granddaughter disappeared. Phones went unanswered. It turned out she'd simply been tricked and thrown out. Now she lives here, in this old cottage, which will be torn down soon because some developer is buying up the land. Eleanor! Ethan even half rose, leaning on the table. You've just given me back my life, both literally and figuratively. I promise you, do you hear me? I promise I'll do everything I can to help you. For the first time in a long time, he laughed. Easily, freely. He'd lost everything, except the most important thing. The one thing no one could take away. His knowledge, his mind. He was a lawyer. And he would get this woman, her home back. The next day, Ethan was a changed man. He went into the city, got his phone and laptop sorted, and plunged into work. He was like a hunter on the trail. He discovered the deed of gift named a young woman who had never been her granddaughter at all. She was a professional swindler who had put on a whole performance. And after the gift, the apartment had been immediately resold to a straw man. A classic scam. That means, he explained to a stunned Eleanor, your real granddaughter isn't involved at all. She probably doesn't even know you exist. Such joy lit up in the woman's eyes that Ethan knew he was on the right track. A long legal battle began. Ethan worked like a man possessed. He found witnesses, gathered evidence, filed a complaint with the authorities. After several months, the court declared both transactions void. The apartment was returned to Eleanor. But Ethan didn't stop there. He found her real granddaughter living in Canada on social media. They connected via video call. Eleanor wept with joy, looking at the smartphone screen Ethan had taught her to use. By late autumn, Ethan was managing without crutches. He rented a tiny room and opened his virtual law practice. Business boomed, especially after he won a class action lawsuit against the very developer who tried to muscle in on the cottage community. He often visited Eleanor in her city apartment. They became a real family. And then, one summer day, he put on his best suit and went to his old address. Chloe opened the door, haggard, heavier, with a vacant look in her eyes. She didn't even recognise him at first. My eyesight's been bad since the birth, she explained. In the room, a small boy was crawling on the carpet, awkwardly, with difficulty. He has cerebral palsy, Chloe said, her voice flat. He can't walk. Ethan walked over and picked the little boy up. The child looked at him and suddenly smiled. And in that smile, Ethan saw something so familiar, it took his breath away. Is he mine? He asked Chloe. I don't know, she shrugged. What does it matter? But for Ethan, it mattered. He took them and drove them to Eleanor's place. Eleanor examined the child and delivered her verdict. He needed surgery, perhaps more than one, but there were chances. For the next year, the two of them, Ethan and Eleanor, cared for little Leo. Ethan divorced Chloe and secured legal custody of his son. He didn't care if they shared blood or not. This small, resilient human being was his son. His law firm thrived. He opened a small private medical clinic where Eleanor happily worked part-time. The three of them, Ethan, Eleanor, and little Leo, who was already starting to take his first steps, became a real, close-knit family. One evening, Eleanor invited a young woman over for dinner, the granddaughter of a colleague. She had had a difficult life herself. Her name was Alice. She sat at the table, smiling shyly at Ethan, and ate with delight the apple pie Eleanor had baked, and the shrewd old woman watched them, smiling a wise smile known only to her.